To see what has been going on in the Portland area over the last several years, where the homeless crisis has significantly grown, it's really been frustrating to me personally.
My heart goes out to the people, but I don't know what to do about it. An estimated 38,000 people experienced homelessness at some point in 2017. That's 1.5 times the number of people it would take to fill Providence Park Stadium.
I think there are a lot of misconceptions about homeless individuals. There are many factors in society that contribute to someone's homelessness, and it's not just a personal choice, even though they do have many personal choices that contribute to that.
So the problem is immense, but rather than just feeling overwhelmed and therefore doing nothing, we are choosing to be a part of the solution. The HHF board is a group of 7 individuals who all have either extensive experience in serving the homeless or specific skills that will help HHF run effectively.
HHF has a clear vision, mission, and strategy for addressing homelessness. Our mission is to identify and financially partner with grassroots organizations in the Portland area that are successfully helping homeless men, women, and children gain stability in their lives so they are no longer homeless. I love the Webster's definition of stability, the strength to stand and endure. We all want that.
I don't want to be a part of something that helps people stay on the streets. I want to be a part of something that helps them permanently get back to stable lives where they are not homeless.
Not all organizations are created equal. Some are very effective, have excellent records, and others, if you ask them, how many people did you get off the street last year, they wouldn't be able to answer that question. If you ask them, well, how much did it cost you per person off the street, they wouldn't know. We have a vetting scorecard, and each organization that we vet, we just go down the checklist. Are they actually tackling a particular cause of homelessness, yes or no? Can they tell us what their success rate is? Can they tell us what their retention rate is? And when we get done, we have an objective score that we give for each organization that we vet.
Our plan is to diligently vet these organizations, raise funds throughout the year, and to annually distribute the funds to the organizations that our donors choose to support.
I think it's an important approach to being able to say, yeah, not only am I going to give my money to this, but I'm going to actually have a chance to determine which of these organizations that I think is most important. Sincerely, I believe that we have a good chance within 5 years to raise $1 million for the cause. And with $1 million, you can make a significant impact.
Together, we can do this.
Good evening, and welcome to Hope for the Homeless Foundation's 2021 fundraising event. Thank you for spending the next hour with us. We think you will find it informative and meaningful. I'm Steve McCarty, one of the founding board members of HHF. Our mission is to financially partner with local organizations that are doing effective work in addressing the causes of homelessness, as well as successfully helping people get into stable living situations. As you are aware, over the last year and a half, the homeless situation in the Portland metro area has multiplied significantly, and a lot of money is being thrown at the housing problem, but it is not solving the human problem. We have spent this year continuing our efforts of finding and vetting local organizations that may not be familiar to you, but are doing tremendous and effective work. You will hear from each of the 4 organizations we are presenting. Tonight is about partnering together for a positive impact. We need you. These organizations need you. They need your financial support to continue to expand their work. If you are with us for the first time, thank you for joining us. Thanks also to those of you who have supported our efforts over the past 2 years. Last year, we gave a total of $100,000 to 4 excellent organizations, and our vision this year is to double that amount. And I want to stress that every donation, every dollar is important. If you have given in the past, please consider doubling your gift this year. And if you are joining us for the first time, please consider a donation of $1,000 or more. Those giving $1,000 or more will be given the opportunity to cast a vote for one of the organizations later tonight. And the board has partnered with the Tolovana Inn in Cannon Beach to give away a 2-night stay to one of tonight's attendees. This will be done at the end of the evening, so stay with us. Thanks again for joining us. Let's partner together for a very positive impact. And now, I would like to welcome back our host from last year, Gabby Viesca. Gabby, thank you for leading us through the rest of the evening.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Partner Together to Give Hope campaign. As Steve mentioned, my name is Gabby Viesca, and I am delighted to be your host tonight. I really love the work that Hope for the Homeless Foundation does, so it truly is a privilege to be here with all of you. Thank you, Doug and team, for inviting me. We have a great night ahead of us, and I just want to thank you for spending your evening with us and for partnering with us in bringing hope to so many homeless people here in Portland. Before we start our program, I'd like to take just a few seconds to talk about all the different buttons and sections that you will be interacting with. If you were with us last year, this will just be a refresher. But if you are joining us for the first time and you've never used this platform, don't you worry, I gotcha. I'm about to give you the lay of the land. The first thing I want you to locate is the chat box. If you look at the right-hand side of your screen, you will see the chat section, and at the bottom of it will be a box. That is the chat box. That's where you can type all your comments. If you are in front of your computer, please go ahead and type something, anything, your name, hello, hola, why you're excited to be here. And I'm going to be looking at the screen. If I would have been looking earlier on, I would have seen the no audio thing, but I wasn't looking, but I'll be looking now. So if you can just write something, hi everyone, Jill, good to see you. I'm looking this way because my monitor is over there, but I'll make sure, Alan, you said something. Good one. Okay, so that's where you're going to be engaging the whole night. Throughout the night, if you have any questions at all, feel free to write them in the chat box. Even right now, if you have a question for us, Linda Gillum and Doug Marshall will be monitoring the chat box to answer all your questions. The next thing I want to point out to you is the 3 tabs that you'll see at the top of the chat window. One of them says chat, the other one says polls, and the third one says handouts. I will be referring you to them throughout the night. For now, you don't need to do anything about it. You just need to know where to locate them. If at any times you have technical difficulties, you can contact Connor. Connor is our tech guru. We love Connor. He will do his best to help you troubleshoot any problems you may have. His phone number is in that blue box at the top of the chat box. Just text him and he will help you. Now, if the issues are on our end, as we already had some, just bear with us. It might happen again. Who knows? It's COVID times. We've all transitioned our lives online. So I'm sure we're all used to glitches and like the mics being off and things like that. So it's all good. If something goes off, if the screen freezes, if you lose me, don't leave us. Just stay there. Give us a minute and we will be back. If at any time during the night you would like to make a donation, you can do that by clicking on the link that will show you on the chat box right now. I'm going to go ahead and look and see if Linda can put it there. Thank you so much, Linda. We will share this link a few more times throughout the event. Now, if you decide to make a donation very early on, because you just cannot wait to donate, that's wonderful, but don't donate and leave, because remember, we will have that drawing for the 2 nights at the Tolovana Inn, very close to Cannon Beach. It's a great place. You will not want to miss the chance to win that. Everybody who registered to this event is already signed up. So you don't need to do anything about this except stay until the end. And last but not least, we want to thank Dean and Kathy Lemon, as well as Multifamily Northwest, who have generously sponsored tonight's event. Thank you so much for your generosity. Okay, so why are we here tonight? We are gathered here to make a significant difference in the lives of homeless people here in Portland. And we're going to do that by raising funds. These funds will be given to 4 organizations that are doing amazing work among the homeless population, and you will be hearing from each one of them tonight. Those of you who give $1,000 or more will be able to vote for your favorite organization. Later on tonight, we'll give you the details on how the voting is going to work. What you need to know right now is that the entirety of the donations that we received tonight, plus all the donations we've received last year, will be given to these organizations that we are highlighting tonight. 100% of the money that you're giving will be directly impacting people. Tonight, you'll be hearing from a lot of different people. You will hear from the board members of Hope for the Homeless Foundation Board. I'll introduce you to our 4 finalists. You will be able to vote for your favorite finalist. And at the end of the event, you will be part of the drawing for the 2-night stay at the Talabana Inn. It's going to be a great night. It already is. Remember that you can donate at any time by clicking on that link that is in the chat box. At this point, I would like to quickly share with you just a few highlights from last year that really show how much HHF has grown. Earlier this year, Doug Marshall was given the opportunity to introduce HHF to the Metro Council. He was very well received, and as a result of that, HHF is becoming known by government officials in the area. We're very happy about that. Also, just last month, HHF was featured in KGW News. Both Doug and Carol were interviewed, and they shared with the whole Portland community our message that the problem of homelessness is solvable. Our message is getting out there, and we celebrate that. Another highlight from last year is that the number of people requesting to receive the HHF newsletter just skyrocketed. So many people reached out to us wanting to sign up and get our newsletter. They want to know what we're doing, what we're about. They want to partner with us. And we just want to say thank you. And if you're listening to this and you still haven't signed up to get our newsletter, do that. We would love to keep you informed of all that is happening in HHF. So it really has been a wonderful year of getting the word out and extending our reach. But perhaps more importantly, this year was a year of gaining new insights about the homeless crisis in Portland, which is very important moving forward into 2022. And now, I would like to introduce my friend and president of Hope for the Homeless Foundation, Doug Marshall. He's going to explain the vetting process and why the 4 organizations that we are introducing to you tonight are worthy of your financial support. Let us welcome the one and only Doug Marshall.
Thank you, Gabby, for the introduction. We're excited to have you back emceeing tonight's event. Let me begin by stating the obvious. We have a homeless crisis in the Portland area, and it's getting worse, not better. But to make matters more confusing, there are so many organizations that help the homeless that it's difficult to know who to financially support. And this is where Hope for the Homeless Foundation comes in. We vet nonprofit organizations to determine which organizations deserve your financial support. The very first step was to identify the organizations helping the homeless. Who are they? And what do they do? The Rose City Resource, a Street Roots publication, identifies 325 nonprofit organizations that help the homeless in the Portland area. Yes, you heard me right. 325 organizations. That's a lot of nonprofits helping the homeless. The second step was for HHF to place these 325 organizations into one of 4 categories, depending how they answer 2 fundamental questions. 1, do they tackle underlying causes of homelessness? You see, if an organization doesn't address one of the underlying causes of homelessness, then they're not solving the problem. And 2, do they assist with both transitional housing, getting them off the street, and then when they're stabilized, assist in finding them permanent housing? By answering these 2 basic questions, organizations can be divided into one of 4 groups, as shown in this quadrant. The 4 boxes each represent a different approach to helping the homeless. The yellow box represents those organizations that provide transitional housing without addressing the underlying causes of homelessness. About 9% of the 325 organizations identified are in this category. The blue box represents those organizations that address underlying causes of homelessness but do not provide assistance with transitional or permanent housing. The red box represents all those organizations providing compassionate care such as food, clothing, medical assistance, etc. But they do not assist with housing or address the underlying causes of homelessness. The green box, the box we want to focus on, is what we call holistic advocacy. They do both. They assist with housing needs and address underlying causes of homelessness. These are the nonprofits that have the potential of actually helping people to return to stability so they're no longer homeless. Now, if you're interested, you can download a list of these organizations color-coded by the approach they take in helping the homeless. HHF has come to the conclusion that the best business model, and by that I mean the most successful approach taken to help the homeless get permanently housed, is a three-step process. They begin by providing transitional housing so the homeless are safe and where they are provided the basic necessities of life. They then provide individual case management services that specifically identifies their underlying causes of homelessness and the treatment necessary to return them back to stability. And finally, once the person has stabilized, the nonprofit assists in finding permanent housing while continuing with case management services for long-term success. This business model works, and holistic advocacy, represented by the green box, uses this business model. We estimate that only 15% of these 325 organizations actually use this business model. And in the years to come, these are the organizations that HHF will vet to verify that they meet the criteria for our financial support. HHF seeks out nonprofit organizations who address underlying causes of homelessness, whose results are cost-effective, who can document their success rate in helping people get permanently off the streets, and where a strategic financial contribution could have a significant impact on growing their results. Organizations that meet these criteria are thoroughly vetted by reviewing their financial records, doing an on-site visit of their facilities, and tabulating an objective vetting scorecard that answers 7 critically important questions. In the first 2 years, HHF has vetted 10 nonprofit organizations that use this business model, including the 4 financial grant recipients we are going to introduce to you tonight. If you're interested in a summary of the vetting results of these 10 organizations, a download is available for your review. I began by saying the homeless crisis in Portland is getting worse, not better. And unfortunately, it's true. But it need not be that way. Yes, it is a huge problem, but this crisis is solvable. We solve this crisis by financially supporting those organizations that are successfully getting people off the street, like the 4 awesome organizations we'll be introducing to you tonight.
Thank you so much, Doug. I don't think I've ever seen this level of detail and meticulous analysis to evaluate a nonprofit organization. If anyone wants to see the full document, you can find it in the handout section that I mentioned earlier on. The document is pretty impressive. As a donor, I would feel so much peace knowing that my donation is going to be as effectively and as wisely as possible. So thank you once again for that heavy lifting. Our next speaker is Jerry Mason. Over the past 2 years, Jerry has gone to almost every single site visit that we have made. He brings a long history of working towards affordable housing solutions, and through his involvement with HHF, he has discovered the personal side and the benefit of reducing homelessness. We've asked Jerry to share with us about the site visits and the role we all play as a community to make a difference. Here's Jerry.
The vetting process and visiting these different nonprofits that are working with the homeless is really exciting, but it's critical to what we're doing. But we've got to make sure that the money is well placed so that it has a chance to manifest itself in something that can really make a big difference. Site visits have to do with seeing the accommodations, that they're really clean and organized and friendly. When we go to talk with these organizations, we want to know what their plan is. Tell me about your goals. How do you describe success? We need to know what kind of budget they have, how it's used, how many people they handle at one time. They want to get them off the street, they want to get them cleaned up, then get them on to somebody, to a specialist usually. These people are broken and they don't believe in themselves very often, and until they can get in a warm and inviting and forgiving setting, they don't come out. They just stay in their shell. What gets somebody out to take another chance? They have been confronted with failure and degradation and critique most of their lives in many cases. And to get into a warm and giving place, they can relax, they can feel secure, they get clean, they get healthy, and begin to think about something more than just, how am I going to get through the night? What's for dinner? I mean, when that's all you have time and energy to think about, you can't think about bigger things. And to just put a roof over their head and say, we're done here, it's not fair. These people need something else to be able to stay there. I'm really very thankful that there's a lot of people that care. There's a lot of people that are concerned. There's more people than I thought that are capable and are concerned and care. It gives hope. As a community, it's within our grasp. This idea of, I want to make a difference, is easy to say, but they're doing it. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you so much, Jerry, for sharing your insights with us. Your passion for this kind of work and for the homeless population in Portland is not just evident, it's quite contagious. So thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. We are now going to transition into a different section where you'll hear from each of our 4 finalists. You may want to have a pen and paper at hand so that you take notes about each organization. The first one we'd like to introduce to you is Portland Homeless Family Solutions. Their mission is to come alongside entire families who are experiencing homelessness. So let's hear from Emma, their executive director.
Portland Homeless Family Solutions empowers homeless families with children to get back into housing and stay there. One of our programs is our Family Village Shelter, which is the first shelter of its kind in Oregon featuring trauma-informed design and architecture, which is a really innovative and creative model of providing shelter that has all of this evidence to show that families who live in these shelter environments, they have more success moving into housing and staying housed long term. So we operate the Family Village Shelter for 16 families at a time out in the Lentz neighborhood. And all of those families work with a housing specialist when they live in shelter on getting back into permanent housing. We also operate a mobile housing program, so we help many, many more families all around the community get back into housing as well. We follow the Housing First model, which prioritizes getting families back into housing as quickly as possible, and then we help them stay there long term with wraparound services. So every family looks different, and families tell us what they need. So that can look a number of ways. We help families with access to mental health care, domestic violence advocacy. We teach evidence-based classes like budgeting, communication. We teach a rent well tenant education class. We can help families access employment or better employment or job training programs. We also provide educational opportunities for kids, especially last year when all schooling was done from home. It's really hard to do school from home when you don't have a home. So our kids were working on school in shelter bedrooms and in shelter common areas. So we hired an education assistant to work with families to make sure that all kids were enrolled in schools, that they were connected to all of the educational resources that their schools provided. We did homework help, made sure they had Chromebooks and that the technology was working, everything they needed. Again, our education assistant worked with each family differently. Every family, every kid has a different set of needs, and so she tailored all of her work to the individual families. The way that we add capacity to our shelter is not in shelter beds. It's actually in adding capacity to our housing team. If we have a more robust housing team, we can move families out of shelter and into housing faster. And so we can help more families stabilize long-term rather than just increasing the number of shelter beds. Nobody wants to be in shelter, even though our shelter really is a wonderful and healing place. It's not where kids belong. Kids belong in their own beds. They belong in a home where they can brush their teeth at night, a table where they can do their homework. And so we want to help families get back into those homes as quickly as possible. And so we would hire an additional housing specialist to help families move faster into housing. And then of course we work with families for up to 2 years between budgeting and access to better paying jobs and just relationships. 90% of our families are successful long term.
Thank you so much, Emma. I really appreciate how tailored your support is depending on each family need. And that building is just stunning. We can see there's a lot of love and passion and intentionality going into all of your efforts. So thank you. In our next section, we are going to test your knowledge. We're actually going to do that a few times throughout the night so that we can learn more about the homeless crisis here in Portland. A question is going to pop up on your screen, and then you're going to be able to submit your answers. So I hope that you are ready, because here's the first question. Question number 1. About how many nonprofit organizations in the Portland area help the homeless? Is it 100, 200, 300, or 400? I'm going to give you a little bit of time to submit your answers. So just think it through. Try to get it right. I'm going to wait. Just select your option and make sure you click the submit button. If you don't do that, we won't register your response. Now, if you are looking at the chat section, go ahead and click on the polls section so that you can see everybody else's responses. And I'm going to look at my monitor here on the side. Oh my gosh, most of you got it right. The majority got it right. It is about 300. If you were paying attention to Doug's presentation, he mentioned there are 325 nonprofit organizations in the Portland area that help the homeless. Thank you for engaging in that little poll. We'll have a few more questions later in the program. Now, make sure you are back on the chat section. Just click on the chat tab so that you can see everybody's interaction. I hope everybody's holding up okay. If you need to stretch, now is the time to stretch or do whatever you need to do. We are going to now introduce you to our second finalist, Kenton Women's Village. This organization puts all their efforts into helping women. As we all know, women have a much higher chance of being abused than men, significantly more. And that's why we really like supporting organizations that specialize on coming alongside women. Let's hear from Kenton Women's Village.
So I'm here from Catholic Charities of Oregon to talk about the Kenton Women's Village. We have HODs for 20 women, so our capacity is for 20 women. Normally, the average stay used to be about 8 months. With the pandemic, it's more like 15. So we probably serve about 30 in a year by the time people sort of rotate because they come in at different times. What I love most about the Kenton Women's Village is first of all, it's women-centered. Most of the homelessness programs in the city are either dual gender or they're sort of dominated by men. And so this is a place where people who identify as women can be safe. But the biggest thing that gives me joy at working at the Kenton Village is the empowerment. Seeing them get their self-esteem back, seeing them get their lives in order, seeing them connect with family in some cases. It's just very The look on someone's face when they get a job or they get housing is just, it's worth it. It makes it all worth it. We had a person who came and stayed with us. She, I think anyone would say like she did everything quote unquote right. Like she was married, she had a job, then she became disabled. She and her husband had a house, but her husband died. And when her husband died, she lost her source of income. She wasn't sure how to get on disability. And eventually the bank foreclosed on her house. She became homeless, didn't know where to go because she'd never been in the homeless system, wound up camping on her own front yard of her previous house. Finally, her neighbors called us and we helped her. We got her into Kenton Women's Village. When we started hearing her story, we realized her husband had been a veteran and had not yet taken any veterans benefits. So we were able to work with the Veterans Administration to get her widow's benefits, and so get an income there, and we were also able to get her on her own disability. And then she moved into housing after about 8 or 9 months at the village. She's kind of a mom to many of the women at the village, really kind of teaching them how to cook was a big thing that she did, teaching them how to garden, and then successfully moved into her own housing and came to our gala one year and gave a little speech to our donors to talk about her experience. There's a few things we would like to do. We would like to increase the staffing for sure. We only have staff sort of in the daytime hours, and we'd like to extend the staffing a little bit later in the day hours. Also, we really want to bulk up our financial empowerment and our employment programs at the village. So using a grant, we would be able to help people get more of the things that they need to get jobs, like paying for, the classes or paying for, steel-toe boots, other things you kind of need when you get a job. On average, people have been homeless for 6 years. So it's a long time. And the statistics show that a woman has a 90% chance of being sexually assaulted within 72 hours of being on the street. So the women that come to us have serious trauma, have really experienced a lot of bad things on the street. So that's really important. And increasingly they're older. That's the other thing people sometimes are surprised by. We're seeing more and more women that are 50, 60. We even had a woman who was 80 years old one of our staff people literally just sort of picked her up from the street and tried to get her into the village until we could get her into senior housing. The official Catholic Charities mission statement is to provide hope, and that's what we try to do at the Kenton Women's Village. We try to provide people with hope because people come to us sometimes hopeless, like life has beaten them down. They don't trust systems, and we instill hope to the future and hope in themselves and hope in the relationships that we have.
Thank you so much, Rose, for all your work and for bringing so much hope and healing to women in the Portland area. I especially enjoyed hearing that the average age of women in your village is 60. That just makes me smile because it's never too late to get back on our feet and thrive. So thank you for all that hard work. I hope you guys are ready for the next question. Our next multiple choice question goes like this. It's going to pop up on your screen, remember. Here we go. What is the percentage of organizations who offer holistic advocacy in Portland? That is, 1, they address the underlying causes of homelessness while providing transitional housing, and 2, they assist with finding permanent housing once the homeless issues have been stabilized. What is the percentage of organizations who offer all of that? Is it A, 15%, B, 25%, 35%, or 50%? Now is the time to choose your answer. Make sure you click on it and click the submit button. I'm going to give you a little bit of time, and also make sure you go to the polls tab so that you can see how everybody else is voting. Let me see. Most people are saying it's option A, and that is correct. As you know, Hope for the Homeless Foundation focuses on these type of organizations. Oh, there's more still voting. I mean, people are still voting pretty well. 88% of people got it right. Awesome. I'm going to move on now. I want to remind you that you can give at any time by clicking on the link in the chat box. And also, if you have more questions, I see a lot of you that are asking different questions. Thank you for asking them. If you have more, there's no wrong questions. You can ask whatever question you may have. You can just add them in the chat box. Now it's time to hear from our third finalist, Bradley Angle. This organization supports people who are victims or survivors of domestic violence. They come alongside them to provide healing and community and so much more. So let's hear from Bree, their executive director.
Bradley Engel's mission is to serve all people affected by domestic violence. We do a whole lot of everything in a very strategic way so that we can create the most long-term sustainable outcomes for people who are survivors of domestic violence and or imminently fleeing a domestic violence situation. So we have 5 different programs. We have an economic empowerment program, a program known as Healing Roots, and that actually just went through an expansion where we're able to serve kids that are coming alongside survivors, and that's known as kinship. We offer services for LGBTQ+ domestic violence survivors, as well as a short and long-term housing, and finally our emergency-based shelter program. 80% of our participants are hailing from communities of color, and the majority of that 80% are individuals who are coming to us from the Black, African, and African American community in Portland. We also serve a substantial amount of individuals who identify as LGBTQ+, and then the intersection of those 2 cultures. Our kinship project over in Healing Roots starts at the age of 6. A lot of our domestic violence survivors that we're serving today have very young children. Generally, we serve about 600 to 700 people. You're looking at over 100 different sites that we have that people can cycle in and out of. People are usually with us for about 1.5 to 2 years, and we have an 80% success rate even a year after. We've had 2 different facilities over the course of our entire organizational timeline, and this one really needs a lot of work. So what we would love to do is start renovating our basement in our shelter. There's a tendency that the basement of our shelter will flood. There will be inches of standing water. We literally don't have the funds to make that a safe space for kids to come in and hang out. You know, we served 43 adults last fiscal year in our shelter, but those 43 adults brought 73 kids with them. We realized, wow, we really need to be able to use every single space in our shelter because more and more people are there during the day and at night. The other thing that we would love to do with grant funds from this foundation is help have another salaried position in our economic empowerment program. We have three advocate positions we'd like to have. Right now we only have 2 of those filled because we don't have funding for the 3rd one. So there are really high needs that we have seen in the domestic violence continuum in Multnomah County. We've seen Healing Roots numbers skyrocket, we've seen EEP numbers skyrocket, and we've seen housing numbers skyrocket. Of all the programs that the Joint Office of Homeless Services funds to tackle the domestic violence situation in our city, we are the emergency-based shelter that has been able to provide the most amount of nights during this COVID-19 pandemic. So the shelter is very much in need of more and more care so that we can keep doing what we've been doing for at least another 47 years.
Thank you so much, Bree. I am really inspired by the long-term commitment that you guys have. You say you want to keep doing what you love doing for at least 47 years. And with that kind of vision, I'm sure that Bradley Engel will go way beyond that. So thank you so much once again. It is now time for our 3rd and last question of the night. So get ready. It's going to pop up on your screen again. The question is, what is the cost of successfully getting one homeless person off the street? $2,000, $10,000, $20,000, or $30,000? I'm going to give you time. This is the trickiest one. Let's see how many can successfully answer this question. I'll wait a little longer than usual because I think there's a little bit of a delay, but I'm start looking at it. Okay, the lines are moving. Make sure you respond. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you what the right answer is. All of you answered correctly. That's true. It can be any of those numbers. It really depends on whether the organization works with those who have been chronically homeless, which is much more expensive, or if the organization focuses on those who have recently become homeless, which is much less costly. And based on our vetting process, the range is between $2,000 at the lower end and $30,000 at the upper end. It is a lot of money to get just one person off the street, but it is always, always worth it. Let us now transition to the fourth finalist of the night, My Father's House. They support families with children who find themselves on the streets, and their model is highly intentional, and it is designed to meet the needs of each family. Let's hear from their executive director, Andrea Pickett.
My Father's House is a shelter for homeless families. We only work with families with children, and we use a case management style. So each adult resident is required to meet with a case manager once a week. My Father's House is a 6-month-long jobs program. So we do require all of our adult residents to be seeking and then obtain full-time employment within the first 45 days in our program. We also teach classes, and those include life skills, including parenting, finance and budgeting, coping and grief, and even cooking on a budget. My Father's House is a shelter that was specifically built for us. It was built and designed as a shelter. We have 2 floors of resident rooms. They're studio apartments. We can have up to 50 families on the campus at one time. We have our main shelter building, and then we have a transitional housing program that's called Stepping Stones, and those are townhouses that are on our facility. And there's 12 townhouses. So if a family graduates from our My Father's House program and they qualify, they can apply to move into our transitional housing, and that's a year-long program. And it's a great step that's in between the amount of accountability that they have in the shelter and then being out on their own and being self-sufficient. Our goal for families when they come in is that they find safe and sustainable housing by the time they leave, and they leave with a job. We believe that families need to be finding sustainable employment so they can move out and be self-sufficient. A former resident of ours, her name is Carrie, started drinking and using marijuana when she was 11, and at about 22 she started using meth. And she found herself living under a bridge and just living this life of despair. So she contacted us, and we had an available room, and she moved into the shelter. She graduated from the program at My Father's House and our program at Stepping Stones. So in the 18 months that she was part of our whole program, she got a job with great career potential, and she is still at that job 3 years later. And when I was talking to her recently, she said, actually, because of My Father's House, went from a life of despair to a life of hope. Each story is different. Finding that root cause of their homelessness and addressing that and loving them through that and helping them to address that and deal with it is the best way that we can change this cycle of homelessness and poverty. There are a lot of ways that I can use funds, but our children's program can really be expanded. And then I'm also working on expanding our program and our classes. And I want to make sure that the classes that we're teaching are relevant and that they are encouraging and helpful to the residents while they're in our program.
Thank you so much, Andrea, for providing hope to so many families in Portland and for giving them a practical and successful pathway to self-sufficiency. That's what we want to see happening here in Portland. Our next speakers are Carol Marshall, our vetting coordinator, and Marilyn McCarty, our treasurer. They're going to share with us a few stories from the organizations we supported last year and how your generous donations helped them grow and expand and hire new people, which ultimately resulted in more people getting off the streets onto a sustainable pathway. Let's hear from them.
Hi, I'm Carol. Do Good Multnomah, our top recipient last year, just exploded in the number of veterans they served in new housing projects. As COVID increased, Multnomah County asked Do Good to start a new shelter in a vacant motel on Barber Boulevard. The motel model allows vets to live safely in individual rooms rather than in open space shelters. Do Good didn't have the funds to say yes to Multnomah County at the time, but days later got news of the $40,000 HHF grant. With those resources, Do Good could say yes to the opportunity and opened a whole new program on Barber Boulevard. It's going strong to this day with case management, peer support, and community volunteers helping vets live their best lives. They also opened 2 open space shelters for homeless non-veterans to have a safe place to stay during the pandemic. This is where my friend John's story comes in. John, a chronic homeless drug addict, was found asleep on our church steps. In October last year, HHF was filming the videos of our 4 finalists in our backyard when I received a call from the church that something had to be done. Chris Aosa, Executive Director of Do Good, was in my backyard, literally in my backyard when the call came in. That very afternoon, we had John moved into one of these open space shelters. Because he was assigned a Do Good case manager who really cared about him, he stayed sheltered this whole year. That is amazing because John's history is to cut and run within a few weeks. John's case manager, Luke, had gone through some tough times himself and recently graduated from the Portland Rescue Mission's Harbor Program, where he worked as an intake specialist before going to work for Do Good. He saw something in John and thought that he would be a good candidate for the Harbor Program and encouraged him to apply. Today, John is in the program and his life is on a new path to stability. Marilyn?
Thank you, Carol. That's a great story. We have many other examples of the impact your donations have made, but one of our favorites comes from Road to Hope, the maternity home for homeless pregnant women, which received $30,000 from HHF last year. With your money, Road to Hope was able to hire a part-time office administrator. With only 4 paid staff who wear many hats and are stretched thin, the impact of one more person with organizational and communication skills was huge. One of the responsibilities of the new admin was to further develop Road to Hope's administrative internship program, a 6-month program that trains interns in the skills needed for any office position. That's where Alicia comes into the story. Fresh out of detox, homeless, 18, and pregnant, Alicia had every intention of leaving Road to Hope as soon as possible and returning to a dangerous, abusive man, gang life, and her drugs of choice. But what she found at Road to Hope was acceptance, kindness, encouragement, training, and God's love. Alicia credits her newfound faith with helping her persevere through the tough days and with being able to have her baby in a safe and nurturing environment. Then she made a huge decision. Alicia decided she wanted to break the cycle of addiction, abuse, generational poverty, and brokenness in her family. She wanted much more for her baby and herself. She applied for and was accepted into Road to Hope's administrative internship program. Willing to put in the work, she excelled as an intern and at the same time studied for and got her driver's license. Then she put in long hours of study and passed all her GED exams except math. She repeatedly took that darn math test and finally she passed. Because of the persistence she learned and the confidence gained through her internship training, Alicia is now registered for college and plans to begin classes this winter. Do Good Multnomah and Road to Hope thank all of you who gave to HHF for helping to make these stories of hope possible.
Thank you so much, Carol and Marilyn. It is so helpful to see the tangible results of people's donations. These are things that none of us would be able to do on our own, which is why it is so important to support organizations that know what they're doing, that are out there in the front lines, that have a passion for this, and that they can help us see greater impacts when we come together. I'm really looking forward to see all that will come as a result of tonight's giving. If you have any other questions about how last year's funds were used, remember that you can download the handout by going to the handout tab, or you can also send us an email at info@hhfpdx.org. We would love to hear from you. Our goal is not just to support these organizations. Our goal is also to come alongside you in your journey as supporters, as people who want to make a difference in their city and might not know how to. So any question you may have, just reach out to us and we would love to chat with you. For now, the best way that we can make a difference is by financially supporting these wonderful organizations. They know what they're doing. They understand the root causes that are behind the homeless crisis, and they are definitely making an impact. But here's what's most important. At the end of the day, your financial support will result in real lives being transformed, families being reunited, and entire communities being filled with hope. That's what we can all accomplish together. And that's why we enjoy showing you the details of how these organizations work, the people that are behind them, the men and women that are receiving help and hope to get back on their feet. I have a really good friend of mine whom I've known for about 8 years now. She is a great leader, a great minister. She loves coming alongside others. And her husband went through a lot of trauma a few years back, and he ended up on the streets here in Portland. And he left soon after they had their first baby. And throughout the years, I've been able to walk alongside my friend in this difficult journey. I've seen the ups and downs that are oftentimes part of restoration. I've witnessed the pain and the hurt that this reality inflicts upon her. But I've also seen the tremendous power of hope, the tremendous power of hope. Even in the midst of such difficulties, my friend has not lost hope that one day her husband will come home. Hope is what keeps her going. And the longer I know her, the more I realize that the only way her husband will come home and experience full healing is by receiving holistic help from A to Z until he is fully restored. Providing a hot meal at night will not bring him back. Offering him shelter and a blanket will not bring him back. As wonderful and as needed as those things are, they're not the entire solution. Only a team that is committed to addressing the underlying issues behind his unique challenges, a team that is committed to the long haul, a team that is committed to sticking with him no matter what, that's what will make a difference. That's what it will take to get this man, this father, this husband back to his family. And this is just one story. Just imagine how many stories there are out there. Whatever statistics Doug shared with you, it's easy to think of them as statistics, as numbers. But each one of those numbers is a person. And each one of those persons is part of a family. And that family is part of our society. And this is something that impacts all of us. So we need to come together. These teams that I'm talking about, the teams that are committed to the long haul, the teams that really make a difference, these teams are not just the organizations that we are highlighting today. These teams are comprised of the nonprofit organizations, yes, but also the families and friends that come alongside people in need, and the people who care about this and want to make a difference in our city, and that is you and me. We can make a difference. Last year, we raised $100,000, and the impact that we made was tremendous. It was huge. This year, our goal is to raise $200,000 so we can double the impact in the homeless communities. Next year, we'd like to raise $400,000, and we will not stop until one day we can reach $1 million. And we know we'll get there one day. We want to see hundreds and thousands of people experiencing hope and healing and long-lasting transformation. So I'm going to say this once again. This crisis is solvable. There is a solution. But the only way we can solve this is by coming together. Tonight is our chance to make a significant difference in the lives of many. And I know it's our second year into the pandemic. I know things are tough. Our finances are probably short for all of us. But just imagine what this pandemic has done to those who live on the streets. So I want to invite you to sacrifice a little bit today so a lot can be accomplished in the future. Your financial support is not just getting people off the streets. It's helping fathers come back home. It's helping families come together. It's helping mothers embrace their children again. We can do this together. So thank you for partnering with us tonight. Together, we can make a big difference. In just a second, you will see a pop-up window that will show up on your screen. And I'm going to ask you to click on that Donate Now button, but then wait for me until I'm done giving you all the instructions. As soon as you click on the Donate Now button, another window will open. If you cannot see it, just check the tabs on your web browser. It should appear there. That other page is the Hope for the Homeless Foundation page. And there you will see two green buttons. One is to give by credit card, to donate by credit card, and the other one is to donate by check. Once you click on either of those options, you are going to fill out the fields with your information. You'll let us know how many thousands of dollars you'd like to donate. I'm kidding, but not really. Give as much and as much as you can, as much as you are able to. And once you're done, I'm going to ask you to come back to this tab, to the main event tab. There will be a song playing in the background while you input all your information. And once the song is over, that will be your cue that it's time to come back to the main page. Just look for my face in the browser. So with that, we can go ahead and make your donations right now. And once again, we are so thankful for your generosity. Thank you so much for your generous donations. I know many people will be blessed and many lives will be changed as a result of your generous support. We have about 10 more minutes to go, so stay with us, stay with us. We just have the vote and then the drawing for the Talavana Inn. So make sure you stay for that. Remember, you need to be present in order to win. As I mentioned, we are going to vote for your favorite finalist. You will get to decide how the money gets disbursed among these 4 organizations. And Connor, an HHF board member, is going to explain the voting process to you. So Connor, we're ready for you, my friend.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for your generous support for these 4 organizations. As we move into your opportunity to fund each of these nonprofits, let me touch on these few details. Number 1, remember that as a voting participant tonight, that means that you have given $1,000 tonight or during the past year. And also remember that a couple, you are one giving unit. However, if you are joining others and have others over in your home and you're watching on one computer, you may be wondering, well, how do we both vote? Our system will allow for 1 vote per computer. So the way that you can vote if you're multiple people watching one screen is to make sure to use that chat function, put who you'd like to vote for, put your name next to it, and we'll be sure to manually add it to the totals. While we may not know exactly how much we'll be giving to each organization dollar-wise tonight, right now, we will make sure that you know exact dollar amounts by next Friday. We'll make sure that it's in your email and we'll communicate that to you. The donations received this past year and tonight will be divided amongst the finalists as follows. The first place vote recipient will receive 40% of donations raised. The second place vote recipient will receive 30%. And our third and fourth place vote recipients will receive 15%. Let's do a quick review of these 4 finalists. The first is Portland Homeless Family Solutions. They focus on empowering homeless families with children to get back into housing and stay there. Kenton Women's Village. It's a woman-centered focus, providing 20 sleeping pods for women to be empowered to take daily steps toward permanent housing. Bradley Angle is serving all people affected by domestic violence through their many programs. And lastly, but certainly not least, My Father's House, focusing on homeless families with children using a case management style, helping families find employment and housing. Now is the moment that we've all been waiting for. Now is the time to vote. So please go ahead and do so. Vote now if you have given $1,000 or more tonight or over the past year. The pop-up is going to come up on your screen and it's going to stay there until the voting is closed. But once voting is closed, it will go away. Once you cast your vote, be sure, look over on the right-hand side of your screen and click the polls tab so that you can follow along with the results. Thank you again and happy voting.
Okay. Thank you so much for voting. Remember to look at the polls tab so you can see the results. Let me go ahead and look at my screen. And as you can all see it, but I still am going to make it even more exciting. Drums! I would like to congratulate My Father's House for getting the most amount of votes. Yay! They will receive 40% of the funds that we raised tonight and all of last year. So let's do a happy dance for them. Congratulations, My Father's House. Our second vote getter is Portland Homeless Family Solutions. Congratulations. They will receive 30% of the donations received. Another happy dance. In third and fourth place, we have Kenton Women's Village and Bradley Angle. And they will receive 15% each. And this is happy news for everyone. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you to all of you for voting. I should add that in addition to the financial grant, the 4 finalists will also receive a copy of their video to be placed on their website. The video that you saw, we helped them put that together and we're going to give that to them. And that is a big gift in itself. It will help them tremendously with their marketing efforts. So thank you so much to HHF and to Jeff with Silverman Studios for putting together these awesome videos. Now it's time for the drawing for a 2-night stay at the Talavana Inn on the Oregon coast. We're going to see the lucky draw on your screen. We're going to do that right now. Drum roll, please. Woo! Let's see. No, we're going to skip that. She's part of our team. Roxana's part of our team. We're not going to do that. Another one. We don't want to cheat. Drum roll. They're like, no, not her. Okay, yes. I don't know how to say it. Kathy, Wise, Weeze. I don't know. English is my second language, but you can see your name there. We need to make sure. Sorry. Something here is messing up. We need to make sure that you are here. Oh, I see you, right? Kathy Weiss, congratulations on My Father's House. You just responded. You are present. Are you here until the very end, though? Can you scroll that down to make sure she is here now? We want to stay true to our system. Kathy, just say one more thing to make sure you are here. Because I don't know how long ago you added your comment. Oh, that was 15 seconds ago. Sorry. I think you're here. I think you won. You won. Congratulations. Yes, she is there. Awesome. Congratulations. Someone from the team is going to reach out to you to give you all the details for your fun getaway at the Talavana Inn. Okay, so Time flew by. It went by so quickly that usually means we're having a good time. I certainly had a great time. So once again, we want to thank you so much for being here tonight, for your amazing support, and for partnering with us and with these 4 finalists, with these amazing organizations. And thank you once again to Dean and Kathy Lemon and to Multifamily Northwest for sponsoring tonight's event. If any of you had a question that we were not able to answer, please email us at info@hhfpdx.org. And also, if you have a family member or a friend that was unable to attend tonight, but you would love them to watch this video, just send us an email and we'll send you a link. That is it. That's all, folks. It was great to be with you tonight. Thank you for your support. We'll see you next year, and goodbye. Adios.